Well, folks, we're here. I'm ready to discuss the end of Alien Force's second season and all the rest of the episodes that I haven't talked about yet. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different because I've tried many times to write out in-depth thoughts on each of these episodes, but at the end of the day, those thoughts, they get really, really boring to listen to for one simple reason. I don't care about a lot of these episodes. I don't mean that in the way that I hate them or I think they're the worst thing ever. It's just that I don't have much to say about them, and I felt that they were just kind of whatever. Fine. I guess I could see someone enjoying them, but were they for me? No, not really. Like, let's start with episode 2, where they fight Darkstar again, and Kevin needs to prove to this frog guy that he's a real plumber hero now. Sounds cool. I mean, I like the idea of leaning into Kevin's past and the way people treat him now, but I felt like this episode didn't focus on that as much as I would like. I mean, sure, there are some nice conversations about it, especially this moment where Gwen brings him a bag of balls to use for his transformations and assures him that she knows he's changed. It was sweet and another stepping stone on the journey to me caring about their relationship. But between nice moments like this, there were a lot of mediocre fights, some awkward pacing, and just all the issues I've already complained about with Alien Force before. Overall, it leads to an episode that isn't bad, but due to the other elements surrounding its central ideas, still fell flat for me. Then there's episode 5 where Cooper's introduced again. Really, I've got so little to say here. Cooper is still a character who I really don't care about. He's got this thing where he really likes Gwen. That's about all I got from him and all that I remember right now. There were some mediocre fights. Yeah, that's about it. Really, this is just setting up stuff for later episodes, which is fine, but it also needs to keep me engaged on a moment-to-moment level, and it simply doesn't. Episode 8 is similar. Here, ship returns and the Forever Knights want to harness its power. This episode is mostly focused on Julie and Ben's relationship, but the simple problem is that, by the end, I still don't care about Julie. She's incredibly bland and basic. I really have no grip on her personality. I don't get much chemistry from her and Ben, if any. Then there's episode 9. Here there's this baby alien creature collecting stuff. Ben and the gang have to get her back to her parents, and yeah, that's it. Nothing to say here. I didn't feel like I learned anything new about these characters. The conflict was incredibly basic. The action isn't nearly exciting enough to carry this. It's one of these episodes where if you already enjoy Alien Force, you might like this as just more of it to watch. But if I'm not at a baseline level of already liking this show, more of it doesn't mean much to me. And finally, we have episode 11. This is another one that seems cool on paper, but it really doesn't amount to much. See, we spend a good deal of time following this guy named Tyler. It's clear that something's weird with him, and eventually we learn that Tyler is a DNA alien who has regained his human sentience. So yeah, a lot of potential for a cool internal conflict for Tyler, a one-off character that feels interesting and real, and we can see how Ben, Gwen, and Kevin help him, but their interactions are sparse. I didn't get much in the way of a personal side to this. Basically, the stuff that could have made this interesting, the emotional side of losing your identity, it didn't get tapped into nearly enough for me. As it stands, this episode ended up feeling more like it's here to help drive home that the Omnitrix can adjust creatures' genetic composition and return the DNA aliens to normal, instead of being focused on Tyler himself and what makes him interesting. And that's just not enough for me. And then there are the episodes where I do have more to say. But unfortunately, it isn't much good. Season 2's 10th episode is the first one that I really want to give a full focus. See, after the gang gets a message from Helen, Ben has to go into the Null Void, which is collapsing because this guy named Devoid has taken over. And the people there aren't doing well. There are immediately some cool ideas here. I like the idea that within the Null Void, societies have just formed because they have to live there, they have to figure out what to do, and it makes sense that the prisoners there wouldn't just sit around doing nothing. They would try to make a life and a world for themselves. But again, this is a case where the ideas can't carry things for me because the larger plot of this episode doesn't engage me, really. Some of the issues I have are just repeats of previous issues, like really quick, lame fights, awkward cuts, and then the big one, reactions. In this show, people just won't react to things, and that really becomes clear here when Grandpa is back. That's right, folks, Grandpa is back. And this is Ben's reaction to that.
So, you gonna make me ask?
Really? Where's the surprise, the shock, the relief, the emotion? This doesn't even feel remotely like a genuine reaction from Ben, and if we aren't going to get that, why bother killing him off in the first place? Why bother bringing him back? It makes Ben feel so fake, so unreal, so flimsy. And regardless of any ideas this episode might have otherwise, why should I care if we're going to absolutely fumble one of the most important, most obvious things to get right? Then there's the fact that, like I mentioned before, they just forgot things. Like, I thought Manny and Helen were supposed to be searching for the plumber's kids that they put into the Null Void, but I don't believe that really comes up here. Like, I get that they got sidetracked by Devoid, who's really Dr. Animo, but still, you would think that would at least get brought up on a bigger level as like something that we need to get done now, but it never comes back. And then finally, we have the last 2 episodes, the big 2-parter finale that's going to cap off the events of season 1 and 2 in this massive D and alien conflict, and it's, well, I thought it was terrible. Conceptually, I like some of this stuff. Mainly the idea of collecting all these people they've met across the previous episodes, making a new team of sorts, and going to battle the D and aliens. It gives that sense that these previously episodic plots are tying into a larger plot, and that they all meant something. That's pretty neat. Otherwise, the big fights are just, wow. Wow, the D and aliens don't even remotely put up a fight. Everyone's just cutting through them like they're nothing. It's so uninspired, and it sucks the tension out of the supposedly dangerous force because they're just standing there. Never mind that a lot of this just isn't appealing on a visual level, the flat backgrounds, the out-of-place CGI ships. Ugh. Meanwhile, we've got the culmination of Gwen's worries, where it looks like she'll need to transform into an Anodite and cast aside her humanity to defeat the enemy. But Kevin stops her, and it's the relationship that allows Gwen to stay here in the form she prefers. In the end, it feels like this is a big moment of validation for their relationship, where Kevin is open with Gwen about his feelings and Gwen is able to accept them, which sounds cool when I say it like that, but it doesn't hit for me when I watch it. The reason for that is that this moment hinges on a decision for Gwen. Does she stay here like she wanted, or become a full-fledged Anodite even though she doesn't actually want that? Which is fine, and actually a very natural conflict for her to have. But that hasn't really felt like a problem for her before now. What I mean is that she made her decision way back in the middle of season 1, and that decision has basically gone unchallenged. As such, this feels less like part of an arc for her, and more like an issue that just sort of randomly appears. To me, this would have hit much harder if this had been a more consistent issue for her. Maybe we could have seen her wondering if going with Grandma really would have been better, or there could have been moments where people got hurt and she wished she had more power. Just something to make this feel more like an arc for her and a capstone to that arc. However, by far the most important issues stem from Ben. See, at first, it seems like these episodes are setting up a few interesting little conflicts for our protagonist. First off, Azimuth doesn't want Ben to fight because the D and aliens are going to destroy all life. But if Ben stays away and keeps the Omnitrix safe, they could at least preserve the species. Why? Well, because the Omnitrix is really a Noah's Ark of sorts. So long as they have that, they have the means to create new life. Of course, this means that despite Ben probably being their best weapon, it's also incredibly dangerous for him to fight at all. So he can either take a somewhat defeatist approach and run away under the assumption they'll lose, or he can stay behind and fight, but risk losing everything. The problem is that shockingly little is done with this. Ben simply goes and fights, and there really isn't much pushback from Azimuth or anyone else. Ben acts exactly as he would have without this information, which could be a character thing. You know, Ben won't back down even when the stakes are so high, and I guess it is, but I can't help but be disappointed when this idea could have challenged him so much more, and instead, it's just brushed aside. Speaking of brushing things aside, here's another spicy conflict for our main man. See, Ben can heal these D and aliens, but there's a problem. If he does it too fast, he can't use the Omnitrix to fight. So there's another tough choice. Will he be able to let these individuals suffer? Will he be able to hurt them? All for the greater good of the entire universe. That feels like something Ben wouldn't like doing. So yeah, we got a fundamental conflict for our man. But yeah, that doesn't matter because Cooper is immediately able to mimic this technology and create multiple blasters that turn the D and aliens back to normal at no cost. That's certainly anticlimactic. Again, it's another part of making these DN aliens feel like a very flimsy threat in their final battle, despite the fact that we basically spent 2 seasons building them up. And then there's the worst of it. The moment where Ben speaks to the highest of the Highbreeds and has to convince them to stop the war. Here, Ben learns that the Highbreeds have been so insular and have inbred so much that they're now all susceptible to the same diseases, and their kind is going to die out soon. As such, they're destroying other planets in an attempt to take the entire universe with them. For Ben, who had been hoping to convince them, this should be a horrifying moment. The ultimate challenge. How can he try and make a deal with creatures that would do something like that for no other reason than just wanting no other species to outlast them? Well, the answer is that it's really not that hard, because Ben uses the Omnitrix and mixes the DN aliens' genetics with the other aliens from the Watch, meaning that they'll no longer die out. In his mind, that means that there should be no more reason for this fighting, but he failed to consider something important. The Highbreed hate other species. This isn't simply coming from some logical place. They just want to pull everyone else down with them. The last one he helped exiled himself, for crying out loud. So, how will the Highbreeds react? What sort of breakdown will they have when their entire worldview and their very state of being has been fundamentally altered by Big Ben? Well, they won't. Because remember that guy from the first episode of the second season? Yeah, he just kind of shows up in the nick of time, tells them that Ben is a good guy, and immediately convinces them that it's all cool, man. Peace and love, baby. In the last video I made, I praised that episode. I kind of want to take that back, because to me, this undermines that whole moment. The whole point there to me was that Ben thought he was helping this guy, but in the end, there was only so much he could do. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how good he was, there were some people that he wasn't going to get through to. And that became abundantly clear when this guy would rather punish himself than accept that maybe, just maybe, these other species were better than he thought they were. Now, if this was part of an arc where this Remy figure came back from time to time and we saw him slowly growing and changing, that would be one thing. I could definitely get behind that. I could definitely enjoy that. But when we just jump from him exiling himself to him going, hey guys, I changed my mind. I'm all better now. I've cracked the code. I figured it out. It undercuts the best part of season 2's first episode, all for the sake of conveniently wrapping up this one here while attempting to make it feel like Ben did something to cause this, when really Ben's actions here were rash, and he should have needed to be challenged far more and come up with a far different solution, a better solution, or maybe a harder solution. But no, he gets the easy out. If we're going to have a show that has large-scale plots like this, I need a better end than this. I really care about the ending. If this is good for you, fair enough. But I honestly can't say I get it. It runs counter to so much of what I enjoy about stories, about conflicts and reactions to big events and characters grappling with difficult situations, that I just can't see anything in it. Beyond that, the action, like I said, that wasn't even good. Maybe if that was good, I would be able to get more into this, but there was no element of these final 2 episodes that I could latch onto and go, yeah, I really enjoyed that. The whole thing fell flat for me. And honestly, I feel kind of betrayed by season 2. It was giving me a lot of hope in those episodes I mentioned that I actually enjoyed, but it entirely fumbles the big arc of this season. And it made me feel like there was no point in watching a lot of this stuff, honestly. I really, really hated it. So, that might make you think that I'm going to give up on this show, that it's time to pack my bags and leave, and maybe that'd be smart, right? Maybe it'd be smart, but I'm not going to, because I've made it this far, and I am going to watch season 3, and I'm going to give it a chance, and I'm going to see what it's all about. I've heard bad things about it. People seem to really dislike it, but you know what? That's okay. Maybe I'll find something there that I can enjoy. Either way, though, thank you for watching this. Thank you for sticking around for my reviews of all these Ben 10 series and the first 2 seasons of Alien Force. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the next one. Bye-bye for now.